Arteta said they're missing so many still at this stage. See, Ben White was ill before the game. There's Thomas Partey to come into the midfield, Gabriel at the back as well, and of course Aubameyang and Lacazette further forward.
There are players to come back in, but it seems to be even when the players do come back in, the same situation. I think I'm not saying has the bite gone out of Arsenal. You know, I hope not. I hope there's a little bit more still in there. I like to see that. You know, it was built. Arsenal was built on that type of football. You know, skillful, strong. I want to see more of that. I want to see that character. I want to see that.
But realistically, Roy, what should we expect of Arsenal, who finished 8th in the last 2 seasons?
Well, there's obviously a lot of uncertainty. I thought the manager spoke really well there. I thought it was a fair assessment. They lacked the quality of Chelsea. And you could see, you could almost hear his brain ticking over. He's trying these things, but he's got injuries. They've brought players in, they've spent money, the biggest spenders, but they're buying potential. He's at 20 months. I would just give him a bit longer. You have to give the manager longer. We see Ollie had 2 or 3 years before he started kind of making progress. Klopp, I know, more established managers, but it takes a little bit of time. Arsenal have a lot of very good young potential players, but it's just potential.
Do you think that's the right approach? We did make the point before the game that Arsenal have spent more than anybody else in Europe this summer so far, but it's all been spent on players 23 or under, which means it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it won't happen overnight, and the fans want to see some sign of progress, because the last thing sometimes fans want to hear is we've got a project and we'll be good in 2 years' time or whatever. But if that's what the club decided to do, they're buying young players, then you got to give them a chance. But I go back to it, that's where you need your senior players to help these young kids along. And I don't think Arsenal have the real top senior quality players who've got good habits who will help the young lads. Again, Graham made the point before, you need top senior players to help these young lads through. If you're a young lad and you're signing for a big club and you come to Arsenal the last month or two, you're coming to a dressing room that's on a downer. You're coming to a club they've got no momentum behind them. You know, you can't go back to the FA Cup, 2 seasons ago. And fans, it's about the present. For the big clubs, I thought the fans stuck with them today, and I thought the Arsenal players tried, but real short of, I thought, leadership out there. When the game got stretched, you need your senior players to go, just tuck in, lads. These young Arsenal players, we'll see them during the weekend at Man City. Arsenal are pretty decent going forward, but part of football is defending. And there's a softness to this, and that's not a quick fix. The softness will be there during the week, it'll be there next week. And your young, good, talented players might get you out of jail the odd time, but long term, there's a long way back for Arsenal.
But money-wise, obviously Man United, they've spent over, look over, say, 2-3 years. They spent a hell of a lot of money. Chelsea as well, Manchester City. Arsenal, yeah, they're big spender now, but over the last, say, 3-4 years, I don't think they're nowhere near the others.
They've spent 220 million quid in the last 4 windows. It's a lot of money by anyone's standards. But I look at this Arsenal team, it might be a team for the next manager. You know, as a manager, I've said, time is not your friend when you're a manager.
Let's look at the transfer business they've done, Graham. Do you not think the players that have come in here can make an impact this season and maybe take Arsenal into the top 6? Well, I should really ask you that question rather than give my opinion on that. Where do you think these players could take them?
Well, I doubt it'll be this year. It might not be next year. And the young ones coming in, and the ones he's got here, Smith Rowe looks like a player. The young wide player looks a player. But they won't all be main men here at Arsenal in 5 years' time. It doesn't work like that. So I see it a difficult couple of years for Arsenal. It depends how these young guys progress. And I think if they're sticking with Arteta, it's going to be a painful trip. And it doesn't matter if it's Arteta or someone else, it's going to be a painful trip. Because I don't see these guys being influenced when Chelsea come to town, when Man City come to town, when Liverpool come to town, when United come to town. And this is Arsenal Football Club. You know, Arsenal Football Club in recent history have been, not in recent history, but under Wenger enjoyed success. They turn up most Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons, and saw their team winning. It's a hard pill for them to swallow now.
You can see up there, 2004, the last title, and but since then it's been a sprinkling of cups.
It's a hard pill for them to swallow.
Yeah, you can, and you can't keep looking back, but you have to also look at some of the senior players. There's question marks over the senior players. Are they going to be hanging around? There's doubts about 1 or 2 of them lads. So every day they're going to become to training ground. So you're looking at your 4 or 5, hopefully brilliant senior players. You're going, I'm not even sure they're going to be around in a few months' time. So it's hard to get that foundation.
Who are these young guys? I'm with you on the senior players, 100%. Who in that dressing room are the young guys coming in and saying, looking across the dressing room and saying, I want to be like him
Can't
in
they
7
find
years'
role
time.
models elsewhere? Like Bukayo Saka goes off to play for England and maybe watches the players in
They're
their
huge
youth
money.
team.
They're
basis.
huge money. They're the Lukakus, these established players. You need them in your dressing room. And Arsenal obviously are going down this road. We're going to buy young potential. That's what the club has decided. They're obviously taking. Hopefully they can sell these players in a few years' time. You have to go out and spend the big money for these lads. Eventually, United. We've been looking at United for the last few years, going. They go and buy Varane, a centre half, an established player. Liverpool, when Liverpool were kind of making progress, they eventually go and buy a Van Dijk. You have to go and buy the established players.
But it's hard to do that, isn't it, Roy? When they're not even in
100%.
Europe
Yeah, of
for the
course.
first time in 26 years.
Which top players really want to come to Arsenal? That's why they're buying these young potential players, established players. If Lukaku had a choice to come to Arsenal or Chelsea, he's going to pick Chelsea every day of the week. Of course he is.
What do you think success looks like, Sol, this season? What could keep Mikel Arteta ticking over, do you think?
I think he has to somehow, I'm not saying scrape in, but get some type of European position. Maybe not, I think by cup-wise, he can always get the cup. But I think the fans, you've got to get it by league-wise. I think the cup is easy to get into a European. I think it kind of masks it. It's great for the fans, it's great for the players as well, winning an FA Cup. It's great. But I think they've got to get it by league-wise.
And ironically, people spoke for the season ago, it's probably a good thing that Arsenal are in Europe because the league, they've lost their first 2 league games.
And Man City next.
And Man City, again, it doesn't get any easier. But that's what you hear, that's what
You wince at the word project, but is it about actually Arsenal getting their communication right to say we don't think we can challenge top 4 this season?
Does the manager sit down with is it Edu and say, look, have they made a decision? We're going to go for young players that might be players for this football club, big players for this football club in 3 years' time. If that's the case, are we buying it for the next manager, or are you going to stick with me? I would imagine those conversations will have taken place. It's very easy for the people in power to say to the manager, you're our man, we're going to stick with you. When the supporters turn round during the game because it's not going well and they're looking up to the director's box, that changes. That changes. And it's all about time for the manager to go.
What if the owners are in America?
They can still make their noises. They can still make their noises in a certain way.
I think with Arteta, they've been chasing him for a long, long time. I think they're going to, look at it and say, look, let's see what this guy can do. But, there's always a time limit.
And he's learning on the job. This is his first job as a manager. I know Sol makes the point about he coached at obviously at Man City, he's working with Pep and these great managers. But chalk and cheese being a coach and a manager. And it's tough going for him. Tough going.
Do you think that would be a good result then for Arsenal? Maybe top 7?
They'd take that now, definitely.
Think, because of our mixed generations, it's Arsenal we're talking about. It's like Spurs. You put them in the same bracket. These are big football clubs. But both those clubs right now are faced with a difficult future. The future over the next couple of years is going to be difficult for both of them. I come back to the buying people who ain't going to be the real deal for a couple of years, if ever they are. So as you have to grin and bear it. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you're paying whatever you're paying for a box here to turn up here and see your team getting turned over.
And also, Graeme, you talk about moving players on. There's players there at Arsenal on huge wages, massive wages. You can't shift them. They won't want to leave Arsenal. They're settled in London. They've got a cushy life. You talk about these clubs when we played, you're talking about players who were hungry, have a desire to go and win football matches week in, week out. That's the name of the game. It's not every 2 months. But you've got players here who probably the manager doesn't want nothing to do with them. But they can't shift him.
That's the challenge, isn't it, Roy?
The club gave them out silly contracts.
That's the challenge. They've got 10 days to try and get some movement in that area of the football club. We understand they are trying to do that, but as Roy says, that is much easier said than done. But we're making the point, this is early days for Arsenal even this season, and with the signings to come, with the injury problems they've got at the start of this season, there could be more to come from Arsenal in the coming weeks.